Day 2 of Mecum Indianapolis 2026 is wrapped up, and we're going to look at the cars that both sold and the ones where the bid just wasn't high enough. Because honestly, what we're ultimately interested in is the high bid. That's where the real market story is right now. Some of these sellers took the money, others decided to hold on and wait for a better day. But whether a car sold or went, bid goes on, the numbers tell us where buyers are willing to step up and where they're starting to push back. We've got everything from six-wheel apocalypse Jeeps to the very end car, which is going to be my favorite choice, and so stick around for that. And let's see what happened on day 2 at Mecum Indy 2026, starting with this 2024 Jeep Gladiator Apocalypse Hellfire 6x6 with 8,800 miles on it, and it has over 500 horsepower, and it sold for $110,000. That was the bid price. Next is a 1969 Chevrolet Camaro RS SS. It has about 40,000 miles on it, according to the odometer, with a 396 cubic inch V8 and 350 horsepower and a 4-speed manual transmission. It has power steering, power brakes, so it has just about everything you need minus the air conditioning, which is what I would love to have on there. But this car did sell, and its hammer price was $82,000. Now remember, on top of that, you're going to pay a 10% buyer's premium. So you're going to add $8,200 to that. So that $82,000 became $90,200. That's what they paid for this. But we're only going to be talking about the hammer price. Okay, this is a 1967 Jaguar E-Type Series 1 Roadster. And it has a 4.2 liter inline 6-cylinder engine. And have you ever seen these engines? Because I have to say, they truly are a work of art. They are beautiful. I know somebody that has 3 of these cars, and they have one of their engines sitting on an engine stand, and it should be at La Lou in France because it is a true work of art. Now, this one didn't sell. The buyer and the seller didn't come to an agreement because somebody offered $70,000 for this, but it went to bid goes on. The seller said no. What do you think should have happened in this case? Should the seller have said yes? We're going to look at a couple of trucks, and I'm going to be interested in which one you prefer, because one's going to be a Chevy and one's going to be a Ford, and they're going to be complete competitors from about the 1992 to 1996 time period. The first one is a 1992 Chevrolet 454 SS pickup, and that 454 had 255 horsepower, but it had a lot of torque, way more torque than it did horsepower. This one has an automatic transmission, and it has 46,000 miles on the odometer. The good news is the buyer and seller came to agreement because it sold. So it sold for a price of $57,000. That was the hammer price. So $57,000 bought this truck. Do you think that $57,000 is a good deal for this truck? That seems a little bit steep for me, but with 46,000 miles on it, maybe that's not so bad. Let's compare this one with the next truck, which you're going to see right now. This is a 1993 Ford F-150 SVT Lightning. It is one of 2,691 produced with the 5.8 liter automatic transmission. And this one has 107,000 miles on it. I think that the horsepower on these wasn't real high either. It was probably around 260 horsepower, but correct me if I'm wrong. This one looks to be all original. I love the single cab short beds. You know, that just has such a good look to me. This one sold too. The great thing about this one is it sold for $24,000, the hammer price. So it was less than half the cost of the 454 SS Chevrolet. So what do you think? Which one would you pick of the two? The $26,000 or $24,000 Lightning or the $57,000 Chevy 454 SS? Okay, this is long. 2019 Dodge Challenger SRT Hellcat Redeye Custom Widebody. And it only has 691 miles on it. I don't know if that's from the time that it was new, but it's low mileage either way. You know, that 6.2 liter V8 has tons of horsepower, and it has been highly modified by a group called Injected Engineering. It has a Torque Flight 8-speed automatic transmission and lots of custom bodywork that was done to it. It sold, and it had a hammer price of $80,000. Would you pay $80,000 for this? What do you think? And it looks like the buyers and sellers, you know, came up with a price that they agreed on, so that's a good thing. Here is a all original looking 1956 Chevrolet Bel Air, and it shows about 6,800 miles on the odometer. It has a 265 cubic inch V8 engine with an automatic transmission, and there's one of those, what do they call those Continental kits where you have the tire on the back end, and it kind of conforms to the body and the bumper and just gives it a kind of cool look. Yeah, I think it's really nice. But there's a story to these too, is these all original Tri 5s, 55 to 57s, really don't have much demand right now, because this one probably would have sold for a lot more, but somebody offered $38,000 for it. But the owner said no. What should have happened here? Should the owner have come down in price? Here's something a little bit different. We're going JDM, which stands for Japanese domestic market. So after 25 years, you can import Japanese cars into the country pretty easily. This one has a 1.3 liter turbocharged rotary engine. You can see all that ductwork going on in there. That's part of the turbo system. And JDM, yep, it's right-hand drive because it was imported. And it shows in kilometers. It has 30,784 kilometers on it, which probably is around, what, 18,000 miles on it. I think that's what that would be. So it's got a nice look to it. These are going to start gaining in popularity. You're going to see more and more of these probably at some of these auctions like Mecum and Barrett-Jackson, because this is kind of where the market might be headed. We're going to be looking at American cars from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, and these JDM 1990s vehicles as well. So it sold for $25,000. Here is a 1976 Chevrolet K10 Scottsdale pickup. It has a bicentennial package Indianapolis 500 safety truck. And this thing has a massive engine, 468 cubic inch V8 with an automatic transmission, and it has about 49,000 miles on it. I love the body style. You know, it's got a Starsky and Hutch vibe. What was it? The Fall Guy, Simon and Simon. You know, they had the trucks or the cool cars that kind of looked like these. I like it a lot. It didn't sell though. It had a high bid of $40,000. Somebody offered $40,000 for this truck. That's out of my price range. But what do you think about that? Do you think that that's a fair offer on it? I think it's a very fair offer. But the seller said no. They didn't want to sell it for $40,000. So, you know, you can see it has air conditioning, so it has all the good stuff in there, all the comforts. But should they have come down in price? Here is an old car, 1930s. So out of, I think it was 5 or 6 1930s cars that were on the block today on day 2, 0 of them sold. That tells you a lot. That tells you that the sell-through rate on them is 0%. Somebody offered $45,000 for this, and the seller said no. That's more than I'd be willing to pay for one of these, just because this is only a Saturday car. You're not going to take it anywhere, you know, all week long. Has a 350 cubic inch V8 and a 5-speed manual transmission. Why didn't it sell? 1988 Chevrolet Suburban, fuel injected 350 cubic inch V8. So that was early fuel injection. It's probably a throttle body. Somebody tell me. I'm not sure. But we've seen this in another video. In fact, the group that sold it, if you look on the website, you'll see the collection, they call it. The group that sold it, they had bought it at, I think it was Glendale just 2 months ago for $17,000. And now they sold it for $23,000. So they made over, I think they made over 7,000 actually on it. It was either $6,000 or $7,000 that they made on it, flipping it, going from one auction to another. Buy it at one auction and sell it at another and make $6,000 or $7,000. What do you think about that? It's kind of weird to me, but hey, I guess people are doing it. Here's a 1972 Plymouth Barracuda hardtop. Has a 318 cubic inch V8 with an automatic transmission. And you know what I like about this car? Well, there's that AC compressor under there. That I like that a lot about it. And I like that it has a small V8 under the hood too. But I like the color. The reason why I like the color is because it's kind of low key. You know, you're not bright green or plum crazy purple or, you know, whatever orange crush or mango lemon yellow green, whatever those colors are. But uh, you know, it shows 35,555 miles on the odometer. That's probably not completely accurate, but the good news is this car did sell. So buyers and sellers agreed on a price, and it was a hammer price of $29,000. So do you think that was a good deal? I think that it seemed like a fair deal to me. All right. You're going to probably agree with me or completely not agree with me on this, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the C7 is the prettiest generation of all Corvettes ever. Yes, I'm pausing. Absorb that for a second. It's the prettiest of all Corvettes. Look at the body on it. It's beautiful. This is a 2016 Z06 Corvette. So I think that's a 6.2 liter V8 with 650 horsepower. It's a monster. It didn't sell. Somebody gave an offer on it of $59,000. I think that's a good offer. I think that they should have been able to drive home in that thing. But the seller said no. They said, no, that's not enough. And maybe because it's a Z06. Maybe it's because it has just under 33,000 miles. I don't know. What do you think? What should have happened for this thing to sell? Here is a 1999 Porsche. Yes, Porsche. 911 Carrera. And they say convertible, but it isn't a convertible. It's a cabriolet. So when you talk Porsche, you have to put your nose up a little bit and don't say convertible. And you never say we're going to a Porsche car show. You say we're going to a Porsche Concours. And it's spelled concourse, but you say Concours. See? Do you hear that in my voice? This one has about 28,000 miles on it, and it did sell. These kind of first generation of water cooled ones are beginning to go up in value quite a bit. You could have picked this thing up for like $10,000 or $12,000 10 years ago, but they offered and bought it for $23,000 hammer price. Here's a 1959 Willys Jeep, and I don't know if this is called a Wagoneer, but you know that's probably what it morphed into. This one has a 502 cubic inch V8 with an automatic transmission, has air conditioning, it has, you know, power steering, power brakes, all of the stuff. It has it all. Look at the interior on this thing too. I mean, it is beautiful. And guess what? Somebody offered $50,000 for this thing, and the seller said no. What do you think about that? What should have happened for this vehicle to sell? I think the seller should have come down in price because 50,000 is a lot for that. Here is a 1993 Dodge Ram 250 pickup with 94,000 miles on it. That's barely broken in because it's got that 5.9 liter turbo diesel inline six with a 5-speed manual transmission. I would prefer the automatic personally, but this thing looks great. I do like the body on it. It's just got that kind of stake bed and it looks awesome. Those wheels look great on it. This thing is put together very well. Somebody offered $30,000 for it, but it didn't sell. So what do you think about that? Do you think $30,000 is a fair offer on this? It's got the 5.9 liter V8. By the way, I have a remote control crawler that looks almost exactly like this, and I'm going to show you a little picture of it right here. Maybe a little video. Those things climb everything, by the way. I bet you this truck would climb just about anything too. I mean, the thing looks like a beast. Look at the ground clearance on it. Anyway, $30,000 didn't sell. What do you think should have happened? Should it have sold? And what should have happened? Should the owner have dropped the price? Don't laugh at me for putting this on. And the reason why I put it on is because the guys at Top Gear, they did an episode that had a Citroën in it. This is a 1973 Citroën SM, and they said it had the single most comfortable suspension of any car that they'd ever ridden in. So this one would be no exception because it has what is called a hydropneumatic self-leveling suspension system. This thing raises and lowers and, you know, kind of like some of today's fancy cars. Interesting fact is it didn't sell. Somebody offered 25 grand and the seller said no. Should the seller have said yes? All right, this is the last car in this video, and this is my top choice. In 1991 or 92, I was 18 or 19 years old in the Army. I went to the bank, tried to get a loan for $10,000 so that I could buy my own Buick Grand National, and the bank said no. I have been traumatized ever since, and I still want a Buick Grand National. They're not $10,000 anymore. This one did sell, and that's great news. I'm glad that it did. That means buyers and sellers came together and said, yep, this is what the market is then. Somebody offered $38,000 and the seller said yes. So the buyer actually ended up paying $41,800 after all commissions. So that's a pretty good chunk of change, but it has 76,000 miles on it. So I'm happy about that. Anyway, hope you like this video. Be sure to like this video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and stick around because we're going to show more of these videos. This was only day 2 of Indianapolis, and we have a whole bunch more coming.